Bible dictionary. So, Pharisee. All right, when you have it, go ahead.
In the Zondervan Compact Dictionary, the word Pharisee. Of the three prominent societies of Judaism at the time of the Mashiach.
Notice what it said. Prominent what?
Prominent societies of Judaism.
Go ahead.
At the time of the Mashiach. Pharisees, Sadducees, and Essenes. The Pharisees were by far the most influential. The origin of this most strict sect of the Jews. Acts 26, verse 5.
Let's go there. Hold that. Let's go there. Acts 26 and verse what?
5.
5. Let's read. All right, go ahead.
This is the book of Acts, chapter 26, verse 5. Which knew me from the beginning.
Which what?
Which knew me from the beginning.
Read.
If they would testify that after the most straightest sect of our religion, I lived a Pharisee.
Lived what?
A Pharisee.
Lived a Pharisee. All right. So we need to be very aware of what this is saying here now. Go ahead. So it says he lived after the straightest sect of our religion. I lived a Pharisee. All right. Go back and just finish reading verse 6 and 7 for me.
Verse 6. And now I stand and am judged for the hope of the promise made by Yahweh.
Go on.
Unto our fathers, unto which promise our 12 tribes.
Our what?
Our 12 tribes.
Go on.
Instantly serving the Most High, day and night, hope to come. For which hope's sake, King Agrippa, I am accused of the Jews.
Of the Jews. Now, let's go back and finish that section up in a moment.
Yes, sir. But it is believed the organization came out of the Maccabean revolt.
So it came out of the Maccabean revolt, meaning it came about during the period of Greek occupation. So it came about in that sector. That's why when you read 1st and 2nd Maccabees, probably 2nd Maccabees, towards the end, you'll see where the staging of it is starting to come together. Continue, just go right down to that final clause.
Yes, sir. There was, however, a group of Jews resembling the Pharisees as far back as the Babylonian captivity.
As far back as the Babylonians. So it shows you that the sect has been in existence, but not prominently until after the Greek occupation going into Roman occupation. Mm-hmm. All right, now, make a note of this, please. I'm going to give you 6 distinctions between the Pharisee and the Sadducee. The Pharisee, number 1, they were experts in the Torah. They were experts. They studied the Torah. They weren't easily taken advantage of. That's why you'll find that when they came to challenge Yahushua, they would use the Torah as their weapon to attack him. Mm-hmm. Number 2, they believed in the oral law. Because remember, the law was passed on verbally, generation to generation, before it became a written law. The written law came into effect with Moses. That's why you read where it says Moses, the law giver. Mm-hmm. Why did he give the law? Because now it was written, therefore it could be given. Before, it was verbally transmitted to each and every generation. Number 3, holiness existed outside of the temple for the Pharisee. They believed that holiness existed outside of the temple. In other words, unlike the Sadducees, where holiness was only in the temple, They believed that holiness was now outside the temple. You could go outside, people could see you as being holy. And they, by the way, they milked it. That's why they dressed a certain way and carried themselves a certain way, and had a posture that people look at and say, oh, he's so holy. That's why the expression is, it existed outside of the temple. Number 4, the resurrection of the dead. The resurrection of the dead. They believed it. There were components of it. In fact, let's go to Acts chapter 23 and verse 6. Acts 23 and verse 6.
The book of Acts, chapter 23, verse 6. But when Paul perceived that the one part were Sadducees, and the other Pharisees, he cried out in the council, Men and brethren, I am a Pharisee, the son of a Pharisee. Of the hope and resurrection of the dead, I am called in question.
See? So Paul was making it very clear that I am what I am. I am a Pharisee. Well, let's jump down to verse 8, please.
Yes, sir. Verse 8. For the Sadducees say that there is no resurrection, neither angel.
Hold it, go back and read it again, because I want you to see the correlation.
Yes, sir.
So that when we go through the Sadducees, you'll see how it makes clear sense. For
the Sadducees say that there is no resurrection.
There is what?
There is no resurrection.
Go on.
Neither angel nor spirit.
And they didn't believe in angels or spirituals and spiritual beings of any kind. They just didn't believe it. Mm-hmm. Just wasn't part of their makeup. In fact, read it again from the top, please.
Acts chapter 23, verse 8. For the Pharisees say that there is no resurrection, neither angel nor spirit, but the Pharisees confess both.
Both. Hold that. Let me give it a precept to that. Mark chapter 12 and 18. Now the reason why that's important, because that is how they came to Yahushua and tried to taunt him. Go ahead.
Mark chapter 12, verse 18. Then come unto him the Sadducees, which say there is no resurrection. And they asked him, saying, Master, Moses wrote unto us, if a man's brother die, and leave his wife behind him, and leave no children, that his brother should take his wife, and raise up seed unto his brother.
Unto his brother. Jump to 23.
Verse 23. In the resurrection, therefore, when they shall rise, whose wife shall she be of them? For the 7 had her to wife.
So, they say they didn't believe in it, yet you notice how they get into it. Because they were trying to use the scripture to throw off Yahushua.
That's right.
All right, now let's get back to this. Number 5. They were considered to be what's known as the middle class. They were the middle class. They were what we call the working class group. Number 6. They rejected the Jewish leaders. They rejected them. They didn't like them having this position that they held and of dominance. Okay, now let's deal with the Sadducees so you get a balance. The Sadducees now, they ended, that's why we don't hear too much about them, but I will correct that statement in a moment. They ended round about 70 AD. Because when Roman occupation came and tore down the temples and everything else in Jerusalem, they ceased to be in existence. But the spirit, by the way, continues on. We have Sadducees and Pharisees today, right among Israel. And when time allows it, we'll go into that. Now, with the Sadducees, number 1, They were the priestly class. They were the upper crust. They were the priestly class. Number two, the temple, they believed, was a place of holiness. They believed in it being the holy place.
Gotcha.
Number three, they rejected the resurrection. Now, let's give you some scripture to back all that up. That's really what that's about. So if you want to make a note of that. But let me give you some others. Matthew 22 and 23. Matthew 22 and 23. Let us read.
The book of Matthew, chapter 22, verse 23.
Now, be aware, this is Yahushua speaking about the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Read.
The same day came to him the Sadducees, which say that there is no resurrection, and asked him, saying, Master, Moses said, if a man die having no children, his brother shall marry his wife.
What are you reading?
So like, was that Matthew chapter 22, verse 23?
Very good, very good, very good. Very good. Go ahead.
This is verse 24.
Continue, please.
All right. Saying, Master, Moses said, if a man die having no children, his brother shall marry his wife, and raise up seed unto his brother.
Jump down to 29.
Verse 29. Yahushua answered and said unto them,
There it is.
Ye do error, not knowing the scriptures, nor the power of the Most High.
So they said that, he said to them, you err because you don't know the scriptures like you think. You don't know it. All right. All right, let's deal with the Sadducees. Go to Acts chapter 23 and 8 as another precept, and then we'll go on from there. Let's read that again.
The book of Acts, chapter 23, verse 8. For the Sadducees say that there is no resurrection, neither angel nor spirit, but the Pharisees confess both.
Pharisees confess both. All right, just want to read that again. Now, number 4, as I said before, they were the priestly class, but they were also the upper class. They weren't the middle class, they weren't the working men. These were the rulers. These were the ones that the Pharisees did not like. Number 5, they did not believe in any afterlife. So they believed that once you die, that was it. Everything was over. Number 6, they were the big supporters of the Jewish leaders in terms of the Sanhedrin, etc., etc. Big supporters. And they were very rich and very prominent. And so they had a close tie with the Sanhedrin, because it's like today, when people are going into political office, what do? They find someone who will sponsor them. That's right. This is a similar situation. Back then, that's why when you hear about democracy and all those things, the spirit of it has derived from the Sadducees and the Pharisees. Isn't that something? Now that I've given you 6 variations of both Sadducees and Pharisees, let me also give you this whilst we're out there. There was only one time that the Sadducees and the Pharisees came into agreement. Who can tell me when? Go ahead. Good. For the trial of Yahushua. For the trial of Yahushua. And you'll find that in Mark chapter 14 and 53. All right, so when you got that, go ahead. 14 and 53.
This is the book of Mark, chapter 14, verse 53. And they led Yahushua away to the high priest, and with him were assembled all the chief priests, and the elders, and the scribes.
And the scribes. And if you jump down to verse 55, just read that.
Verse 55. And the chief priests and all the council sought for witness against Yahushua to put him to death, and found none.
And found none. So you see, the council came together. So that's very important for you to make a note of that. All right? From there, let's go to chapter 15 and verse 1, if you please. 15 and 1.
Mark 15 and 1.
Yeah, Mark 15 and 1.
The book of Mark, chapter 15, verse 1. And straightway in the morning, the chief priests held a consultation with the elders and scribes and the whole council, and bound Yahushua, and carried him away, and delivered him to Pilate.
And did what?
And delivered him to Pilate.
And delivered him to Pilate. All right. Let's go for the last scripture dealing with the trial. Let's go to John 11:48. John 11 and verse 48.
The book of John, chapter 11, verse 48. If we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him, and the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation.
So this is the ruling class now having this debate. So it's important that you make a note of this is the ruling class having a debate. Because obviously we've just read about the council, how they came together, both Sadducees and Pharisees, in agreement. Never been in agreement before. Always arguing, always in contention. But Yahushua caused us to come together because now we want to bring him down. All right, let's read on.
Verse 49. And one of them, named Cepheus, being the high priest, that came year, and said unto them,
That same year,
said unto them, Salaki, ye know nothing at all, nor consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not.
See that? One man should die for the people. That's why that word there, that one man should die for the people. Now, which people? Israel. So when we're being told that he died for everybody, this verse here is a cut.
That's right.
Because it says, nor consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not. Which nation? Israel.
That's right.
So where do we get where we keep coming back to this point? He died for everybody on the earth. No. It makes it very, very clear here. Gone?
Come.
All right, let's go to Malachi chapter 4 and 3. Let's go Old Testament for a quick minute. So-called Old Testament.
That's right. Malachi
4 and 5.
The book of Malachi, chapter 4, verse 5. Behold, I will send you Elijah, the prophet, before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Most High.
So, he says that he's going to send Elisha before the coming of that great and dreadful day. Now remember, this took place during the time of Yahushua. He's speaking about a great and dreadful day of Yahweh that's going to take place. Now remember, that's nearly 2,000 years ago.
That's right.
Now the reason I want you to really catch this is because if you don't get it, you'll miss it. He said that there's going to be a great and terrible day that's coming, and that Elisha had to come back. And he came back during the time of Yahushua. And by the way, the same is back now. But he had a different assignment back then. But now his assignment coming back in this day, because and this is how we know we are in the last and closing stages of this age or this time.
That's right.
We're in the last of it. So don't get it twisted that we have time, or this has been going on since, yeah. But we are 2,000 years later, and everything is amped up based upon what we see around the world and the powers that be, that there is a stage being set.
That's right.
So when we go back now to Matthew chapter 17, I would normally read verse 11, but we're going to read verse 10. Matthew chapter, what did I say?
17 and 10.
Good. Let's begin to read, please.
Matthew chapter 17, verse 10. And his disciples asked him, saying, Why then say the scribes that Elijah must first come?
Notice, didn't say might, could. The word is must, meaning it has to take place, because it's pivotal to everything else in prophecy. And prophecy, when we understand it fully, it is like a domino effect. When one piece is in place and has fulfilled itself, the other pieces automatically have to fall.
That's right.
And that's why what we're seeing happening around us is the pieces in place, and they're all beginning to fall into place because it's upsetting the balance of power and things of the world.
That's right.
That's why Iran now is not shivering in its boots about America making threats.
That's right.
In fact, it's saying, bring it.
That's right.
In fact, one example was that they said that before we would be afraid of your great aircraft carriers carrying thousands of people and planes and all of those things, but they say now we see there's an opportunity because you're a target that we can't miss.
That's right.
Isn't the mindset changed? Before we were afraid of you, but now, how can we miss you? We send something out to you. All right. So now let's read on, verse 11.
Verse 11. And Yahushua answered and said unto them, Elijah truly shall first come and restore all things. But I say unto you.
Watch this. Hold that. Run back, if you please, to Malachi 4 and 4. And then we're going to come right back here, because I just want to show you a point here. Go ahead.
Malachi chapter 4, verse 4. Remember ye the law of...
Oh, that's so sweet. Read it again, sir.
Remember ye the law.
Remember you the law. We shall remember who we are.
That's right.
Read, sir.
Of Moses, my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb, from all Israel.
For what?
For all Israel.
For all Israel. Oh, I mean, am I going to say anything else there? I mean, you know, again, I say it every now and then, if this was the Christian church, the keyboards would be playing right about now. Have you finished it?
No, sir.
Go ahead and finish it.
With the statutes and judgments.
See? We shall remember the commandments with the statutes and the judgments. We shall remember. Guess what? We're remembering.
That's right.
That's why we're keeping them.
That's Psalms 147.
Right. So when we're back now to Matthew chapter 17 and verse 12.
Matthew chapter 17, start at 11.
Start at 11, please.
Verse 11. And Yahushua answered and said unto them, Elijah truly shall first come and restore all things.
And restore all things. So when he came, the things that he restored caused the memories to start to come back. 2,000 years later, the memories are now falling into place. Read.
But I say unto you that Elijah is come already.
Came already. Read.
And they knew him not.
Read.
But have done unto him whatsoever they listed.
Read.
Likewise shall also the Son of Man suffer them.
Read.
Then the disciples understood that he spake unto them of John the Baptist.
John the Baptist. And let me just see. Matthew 11 and 11. Just let me just quickly look at that. Yep. Let's just read that since we're out here already. Let's left field. Let's go with it.
The book of Matthew, chapter 11, verse 11. Verily I say unto you, among them that are born of women, there have not risen a greater than the John the Baptist. Notwithstanding, he that is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he.
Wow. So now you're seeing it. It's making it crystal clear. John the Baptist came back. Or I should say Elijah came back as John the Baptist. Yahushua said it himself. Letting you know, if you have a problem with regeneration or reincarnation, whatever you want to call it, guess what? He just confirmed it. And John has come back, or Elijah has come back again, because he's got a final job to do. And that's why we don't know who among us is Elijah. Oh my goodness. That's why we're taught that we mustn't beguile, or not so much beguile, but offend or have hatred for our brethren. You don't know who you're hating.
That's right.
All right, from there, if you please, let's go to the Zondervan dictionary. In fact, no, we won't go there. Let's go to this dictionary. Let's read the word Pharisee. In fact, I want you to read from Josephus. Let's get a Josephus account. The good thing about this particular dictionary saves me having to bring my big Josephus complete edition, because now we can read that because it has it in it. So if you could just hold it up so everybody can see what that it's the
Harper's Bible Dictionary.
All right. So the information that saves me having to deal with other things. Now, by the way, you can get these type of dictionaries if you're willing to put a note together and write to libraries. And when they have certain books that they're getting ready to throw away, and they throw away our books, they'll sell it to you.
That's right.
$5. All right. Okay, go ahead.
In the Harper's Bible Dictionary, page 783, Pharisees, according to Josephus, a Jewish historian of the first century who wrote for non-Jews in Greek, calls the Pharisees a choice of life and a philosophy. He gives some general characteristics of the Pharisees in contrast to the Sadducees and Essenes. He recounts some of the activities and influence of this group, and he mentions occasional influential Pharisees. According to Josephus, the Pharisees were the group of most influential with the people, were noted for their accurate and therefore authoritative interpretations of Jewish law, and had their own traditions and way of life to which they were faithful.
Now, notice it said traditions, right? Read that last clause where it says traditions.
Yes, sir.
Way of life, okay?
And had their own traditions.
Read.
And way of life to which they were faithful.
They were faithful. They were faithful to traditions. Now watch this. Let's go to Matthew chapter 15, begin at verse 1, please. We'll stop at 3.
The book of St. Matthew, chapter 15, verse 1. Then came to Yahushua scribes and Pharisees, which were of Jerusalem, saying, why do they disciples transgress the tradition?
Oh, dearie me. See that?
That's right.
Why do thy disciples transgress the traditions of whom?
Of the elders.
Go on.
For they wash not their hands.
They do what?
They wash not their hands.
They don't even wash their hands. I scorn them. Read on.
When they eat bread.
Read.
But he answered and said unto them, why do ye also transgress the commandment of the Most High?
Why do you what?
Why do ye also transgress the commandment of the Most High by your tradition?
So you can't mess with Yahushua. He quick with the comeback line. whilst they're trying to bring something up about his disciples, he's already ready for them because he knows what they're coming with. And he turns and he says, so why do you always transgress the commandments of Yahweh by your tradition? Wow, let's go to Acts chapter 13 and 38, please. Acts 13 and 38.
This is the book of Acts, chapter 13, verse 38. Be it known unto you, therefore, men and brethren, that through this man is preached unto you the forgiveness of sins.
Read.
By him, all that believe are justified.
What?
All that believe are justified.
Read.
From all things.
From all things. Read.
From which ye could not be justified by the law of Moses.
There it is. That you yourself could not be justified by the law of Moses. Now let's go to 2 Timothy. And we'll go to chapter 2. And 2 Timothy chapter 2. And we're going to read verse 20. All right?
This is the book of 2 Timothy, chapter 2, verse 20. But in a great house there are not only vessels of gold.
Now, we have to read this very carefully so that we don't miss it. Because sometimes we go over these things too quickly. In fact, jump back up to 15. Let's read 15 to correct our mindset so we know where we're going. Go ahead.
The book of 2 Timothy, chapter 2, verse 15. Study to show thyself approved unto the Most High.
So when we pick this book up, we must study to show ourselves approved unto our Father. Read.
A workman that needeth not to be ashamed.
Doing what?
Rightly dividing the word of truth.
In other words, you've got to rightly open it up. Rightly. There's a right way and there's a wrong way. That's why it puts the emphasis on rightly dividing the word of truth. Because there is also a wrong way. There are many who are doing this the wrong way.
That's right.
Okay, now when we go back down to verse 20, let's go to verse 20. Let's read that now.
Verse 20. But in a great house.
But in what?
But in a great house.
Read.
There are not only vessels of gold and of silver.
Now let's understand this. It says, but in a great house, there's not only vessels of gold. So that's given us categories now. Gold, read.
And of silver.
Read.
But also of wood.
Read.
And of earth. And some to honor and some to dishonor.
Now, let's see as to whom this is speaking of. Because we've got to now deal with the great house. Let's go from here to Matthew chapter 15 and 24. Then we're coming right back, so don't lose this page now. All right, so Matthew chapter, what did I say?
15:24.
Right. Making sure you're all still awake. 15 and 24. Read what you got.
The book of Matthew, chapter 15, verse 24. But he answered and said, I am not sent, but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
Oh, there it is now. There is the house that it's speaking of. Read it one more time.
Matthew chapter 15, verse 24. But he answered and said, I am not sent, but unto the lost sheep of the house.
The lost sheep of the house of Israel. That's the great house. So you, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, you represent a great house.
That's right.
And it's the house of Israel. Go on, let's go back if you please. Now remember, the house of Israel is still slightly different because the house of Israel, for those of you that are scholarly, you'll know where I'm going with it. The house of Israel is dealing with the 10 tribes, right?
That's right.
So it's dealing with those. So I'm not sent but for the house of the sheep of the lost house of Israel. But now the other group is at play here. Which group is that? Judah, Benjamin, and Levi.
That's right.
So then when we go back now and we read verse 20 of 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 20, let's read.
2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 20. But in a great house there are not only vessels of gold.
So vessels of gold means those who have studied the word at a much higher level, because gold is higher than silver. So that's the gold marker. That if you understand the scriptures at a high level, you are at that gold level. That gold distinction.
Right.
Then it says, read,
and of silver.
And of silver, meaning then that there is another group who understands the scriptures at a silver level, which is lower. You're not quite in the gold, but you're still in the precious metal, but you're not quite gold. You're silver. You're more redemptive. Because silver deals with redemption, etc. You're more in the redemptive state. You haven't quite got to the godly stage yet, which is the gold. And gold deals with the godness.
That's right.
Of this word. And when you're blessed to have teaching that's at a gold level, you need to give the Most High much praise. Because some of us were in camps where we're only getting silver.
That's right.
Then it says, read, officer.
But also of wood.
Of wood. Now wood deals with a level of teaching that has the framework of corruptibility. Why? Because wood can rot.
That's right.
Wood is not even in the precious metal state. You're just basic. And that's why you get some people are always talking about the cross, the cross, the cross, the cross, the cross. Wood, wood, wood. Can't go anywhere further. And then when you go further, it says, and
of earth.
And of earth, meaning you're basic. You're still way down low. You haven't climbed up yet. See that? And then it says,
verse 21.
No.
Salaki. And some to honor.
And some to honor. Letting you know that when you study at the highest echelon in this, you are of honor. Then it says, and
some to dishonor.
You have reached the point of dishonor because you're at a lowly stage. And that usually comes with people who have not spent time in this word being taught before they run out. They run out there with the little that they have and they start to teach everyone and they're leading them astray. And there's so many of that happening within Israel.
That's right.
That's heavy, isn't it? So then, let's go a little bit further because I know what time is upon us. Let's go, if you please, let's go to John chapter 11 and 14. John 11:47. John 11:47.
This is the book of St. John, chapter 11, verse 47. Then gathered the chief priests and Pharisees a council and said, what do we? For this man doth many miracles.
See, so they're trying to see how can they get rid of him, how can they entrap him. But the evidence of his work is outstanding.
That's right.
And we haven't done nothing like that. So how can we compete with this man? You see, this is why you'll understand why history is such an important part of also understanding the scriptures. Because remember, Constantine, who was a Negro man, he was a Jake. I know you think he is an Edomite because you've been taught that. The same way that they've been trying to teach us that the the Pharisees and the Sadducees are Edomites. They're not. They are Israel.
That's right.
And Constantine was Israel, but he was what the scriptures consider to be a wicked Israel.
That's right.
Wicked. And wicked by which? Because remember, he took the gospel of the disciples and he turned Yahushua from a supernatural godlike man into a nominal man who did miracles. That's the difference. They knew him to be God on earth. They knew him because they couldn't find anything. They couldn't accuse him. They couldn't find anything to judge him by because he was just on the mark. All right. Because of time, let's go back to 2 Timothy chapter 2 and 26. Let's go back there for time purposes. 2 Timothy. I've only got a few minutes, so I've got to crank this up a little bit. Okay, so 2 Timothy, what did I say?
2 and 26.
2 and 26, let's read.
The book of 2 Timothy, chapter 2, verse 26. And they, Salaki, and that they may recover themselves out of the snare of the devil, who are taken captive by him at his will.
So there are those who have been taken captive of the devil. The devil has you under his control. And it says, who are taken captive by him at his will.
That's right.
And when it says at his will, it means to do with as he wills. All right? Okay. Let's just hit that with a precept. Let's go to, hold where you are, go to 1 Timothy chapter 3 and 7, just for a quick minute. 3 and 7.
The book of 1 Timothy, chapter 3, verse 7. Moreover, he must have a good report of them which are without, lest he fall unto reproach and the snare of the devil.
See that? It's easy to fall into the reproach and the snare of the devil. Easy to. All right. So, when we understand where we were in 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 26, he said, and that they may recover themselves, meaning you have to get yourself out of what you're in. You've got to recover yourself out of the snare of the devil. All right, go to John chapter 8 and 31, real quick. John 8, 31.
Yes, sir.
Let's read.
The book of St. John, chapter 8, verse 31. Then said Yahushua to those Jews which believed on him, if ye continue in my word,
So, go on.
then are ye my disciples indeed.
So, the key is discipleship. Discipleship. Read on.
Verse 32. And ye shall know the truth.
You shall know the truth. What is the truth? The law. Read.
And the truth shall make you free.
And it will make you free. Now, why does it say that? Is there power in it? That is some kind? No, what it means is that if you're for it, then you won't be in an area to become ensnared. Remember, we just read where it said that you became snared by the devil because you stepped outside of the things, the rudiments of the laws that you must follow. When you step outside, you're open then. You become exposed. All right. From there, let's go to Matthew chapter 17. Let's go back there. 17 and 5. I'm nearly through, so hold tight. 17 and 5. We read it earlier on.
The book of Matthew, chapter 17, verse 5. While he yet spake, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them.
So the chariot came over him, right? A bright, what came over him?
A bright cloud overshadowed them.
The cloud meaning the chariot, read.
And behold, a voice out of the cloud, which said, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear ye him.
Hear you him. That means we obey him. We don't obey all of what happened in terms of the other leaders of the Old Testament. Now we have him, who is the author and the finisher of our faith. We hear what he says.
That's right.
Then we don't go wrong, right? Okay, now I know we went to John. Let's go back there. John 8 and 31. That was the precept.
St. John chapter 8, verse 31. Then said Yahushua to those Jews which believed on him, if ye continue in my word.
In what?
In my word.
In his word, read.
Then are ye my disciples indeed.
You are my disciples indeed. Read.
And ye shall know the truth.
And you shall know the truth. Read.
And the truth shall make you free.
Truth shall make you free. Let's go from here, if you please, to Luke chapter 9 and 49. Luke 9 and 49, then we're nearly finished. Go ahead.
The book of Luke, chapter 9, verse 49. And John answered and said, Master, we saw one casting out devils in thy name, and we forbade him, because he followeth not with us.
See, so this is very important. Now read it again, because I have to break it down as you read it.
Yes, sir. Luke chapter 9, verse 4, Luke chapter 9, verse 49. And John answered and said, Master, we saw one casting out devils.
Notice, we saw, watch this now, we saw another camp casting out devils. And read what he says.
In thy name.
And he was doing it in your name, Yahushua.
That's right.
But he's not with us. We're the only ones who have the truth. Read.
And we forbade him.
And we told him, stop. You don't know Yahushua. We know him because we're with him every day. Read.
Because he followeth not with us.
Because he followeth not with us. We have to understand that it doesn't mean because someone's not with us, doesn't mean they don't have the truth.
God.
And likewise, because we're not with you, don't mean that we don't have the truth.
That's right.
And that's been one of the fringe areas within Israel right now, where everybody's pumping their chest down. We have the truth, and if you leave us, you won't make it into the kingdom. Where do you get up with that? Where do you get up with that? And we just read it clearly here. Well, read it again, sir. Just
Luke chapter 9, verse 49. And John answered and said, Master, we saw one casting out devils in thy name, and we forbade him, because he followeth not with us.
Read on.
And Yahushua answered unto him, Forbid him not.
Do what?
Forbid him not.
Read.
For he that is not against us is for us.
There it is. If they're not against us, then they're for us.
That's right.
Now, remember, let's qualify now. It's not speaking about every Tom, Dick, and Harry now. So if you see Edom out there, then not so much. But if we're seeing Jake, and he's doing it, and the right spirit is there, and we bear witness of that spirit, then praise be to the Most High.
That's right.
Last scripture. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 3. And we will read verse 9.
1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 9. For we are laborers together.
It's because we're workers together. We're doing this together. We're not doing this apart from each other. Go on.
With the Most High. Ye are God's husbandry. Ye are God's building.
We are his building.
That's right.
Read.
According to the grace of the Most High, which is given unto me as a wise master builder.
So a master builder is someone who knows how to build up others. A master builder is someone who knows how to teach others to get this truth so they can stand strong for themselves and defend themselves. A weak builder is one that's building people that don't get it. And 5 years from now, still don't get it. But it says a master builder helps others to be masterful like him. If you're a fast runner, you know how to make people run fast, right? Because you've got all the techniques and the skill. So you teach others to be as swift as you.
That's right.
Read on, sir.
I have laid the foundation, and another buildeth thereon. But let every man take heed how he buildeth thereupon. For other foundation can no man lay than that is laid, which is Yahushua the Mashiach.
Read.
Now, if any man build upon this foundation, gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, stubble, every man's work shall be made manifest.
Because you see, remember, there are standards to the teaching. Remember, we got that earlier on, right?
That's right.
So now we're concluding this now. So gold is one level, silver is another, precious stones is another, because in the other script it didn't have precious stones.
That's right.
But it's linear, it's precious stones, and then it says there's wood, hay, and stubble.
God.
Stubble simply means that the least littlest flint or spark that gives up, you get burnt up and you're out of this.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what it's implying. And wood is corruptible. But then when we go on, it says,
verse 13, every man's work shall be made manifest, for the day shall declare it.
Shall what?
Shall declare it.
The day that is coming is going to be declared. Why? Because it goes back to Malachi. Yes, sir. That's just jumped into my head. I know I said this was last, but that scripture jumped. Malachi chapter 3, I think it is, the sons of Levi. Yes. Malachi chapter 3, and let's begin at 2 and 3. We'll only read those two for time.
Malachi chapter 3, verse 2. But who may abide the day of his coming?
See, that day is coming. Read.
And who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like fuller's soap.
Read.
And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. And he shall purify the sons of Levi.
Read.
And purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto the Most High an offering in righteousness.
In righteousness. So you see then, that's the standard. That was the word I was looking for. That's the gold standard that we're looking for.
That's right.
I've been trying to pull that word into my head. I just came in yet. That's the gold standard that we're looking for. All right, so when we go back.
1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 13. Every man's work shall be made manifest, for the day shall declare it, because it shall be revealed by fire. And the fire shall try every man's work of what sort it is.
Read.
If any man's work abide which he hath built thereupon, he shall receive a reward.
That means that because we're workers together, we're making sure that we understand everything according to the scriptures. Go on.
Verse 15. If any man's work shall be burned, he shall suffer loss.
So we will suffer the loss of the work that we put in. But
he himself shall be saved, yet so as by fire.
So you'll be saved, but by fire. In other words, the fire has to kind of purge you now, burn you up.
Mm-hmm.
But you will be in the kingdom. Whew. That's it.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, do we have any questions from anyone? This one didn't break too much of a headache because it was
this is nice.
just a follow through from last week.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. No questions? All right. Then I'm going to let Officer, why don't you do the final word and close out?
To those watching, we ask that you please subscribe, like. Also, please follow us on our Bible study for Wednesday's Bible study at 7 to 9. Also for our Sabbath, we have at 11 till whenever. Again, please like and subscribe, and shalom.
Shalom.